Welcome to the Speaking of Math podcast, episode number 6 by Door to Math. This podcast is devoted to all things math education and how parents can be a positive factor in their kids' math learning. Math is the gateway to many professional careers as well as confidence and personal growth. We were on Reddit the other day, and one of the comments or questions that I saw by ICXENU in you, ICZNU in you, it goes something like this. I'm trying to help my girlfriend out with Calc 1 at college. She's never been too good at math. She has made it this far by remembering formulas and mostly not getting an intuitive understanding of what it all means. When I try to explain to her things like the midpoint rule or some summation rules, she only remembers the formulas. I try to explain to her what it all means, but it appears to her teacher also teaches by the formula. What can I do to help her? So if this woman came to your office with the same problem, same age, what would you tell her?
I would not touch her math for a simple reason. To change an ounce of perception needs a ton of effort. So at this moment, if her goal is to pass a calculus class and memorizing is the only way to go about, I would assist her getting through the calculus, maybe moving on to the medical career she wanted, or for whatever reason she needed this class. At some point, the only tool that made sense for her is to memorize. If you're not going to be a mathematician, way into the second semester of calculus, I don't see a point. I know a lot of my colleagues are going to disagree with this. I don't see a point of breaking and reset her math notes, sort of speaking.
So this brings up an interesting point. At what point do you just help them finish up their math on crutches, memorizing, and let them go on with their lives? And at what point do you say, no, this is not right for this person, and we have to go back and relearn math, learn how to understand it, and with all the difficult and excruciating work that comes along. So with this person, what am I hearing you saying? That it's not really worth it?
Well, let's just make a couple assumptions. We don't know who is writing, if the gender is writing. Let's assume it's a boyfriend and girlfriend for the sake of this podcast. I would say forcing someone going back from calculus 2 all the way down to, say, algebra, where you actually pick up the critical thinking skills away from memorizing math and deconstruct the whole learning process. It's not a good way to go about, despite the boyfriend's intention, because it is a lot of work, number one. And number two, it might affect the relationship. Beyond that, I would think it's much better to sit down and ask this girl, what is it you want calculus 2 for? Is it just a gateway material onto which you can pass on into medical school or accounting program or business program, whatever it is? Going backward to fix something, not knowing the amount of work required, I believe is a poor choice.
Okay, so in this case, with a college student, maybe cut and dry. She just wants to get her math class, calculus class done with so she can get to medical school. But for parents of 3rd graders through 12th graders, it can be an excruciating question. Do I give my child a crutch to hobble on to their last math class in the 12th grade and let them move on? Or do I really do the work and go back where the math is broken and build it back up again from that point?
Yeah, I hear the question. So you're asking for a cut and dry case in calculus 2 for college students just almost over her math career. You sit down and have a talk. That person has a pretty articulate, good vocabulary to say, here's what I want. But what do you do for a kid? A kid doesn't have that kind of maturity or vocabulary. What can a parent do? That's what I hear you asking.
Yes.
Well, I believe in this case, again, this is just empirical, what I found to work from my personal experience teaching in the past 15 years. I sit down with the parents, I ask them, the work that you're wanting to do, which is rip off the bandage, that's the memorization. We got to go in there, rebuild the muscle. It is not a pleasant work. I can get you there or can help you get there, but are you willing to do the work? The parents usually look at me saying, what do you mean? Of course I'm willing to do the work. I said, no, you don't understand. I think your kid can do the work. Are you willing to do the work? Because you got to think of it as a course of penicillin antibiotic course. You can't stop in the middle. You're crossing a Grand Canyon with a bridge, a hanging bridge. You can't walk halfway in the middle when all the effort put in, but there's no reward on the other side yet. You can't quit in the middle. So are you willing to do the work? The question is always addressed to the parents. Are you willing to do the work? If the answer come back, so I'm not sure, then I say, don't do it. If you're not sure you have what it takes to go all the way from one end to next end, don't do it, because the worst time to quit inevitably is in the middle of the river. The current is the fastest, and you put in all the work, and the kid does not have the confidence you're aiming for. When in doubt, don't do the work. If you think you have what it takes to get all the way across the other road, find a partner, find someone, sit down and say, okay, I can take your kid from all the way from A to B, reconstructing everything. Then you go forward. When in doubt, don't do the work.
Okay, so that's a bit surprising to me. It's not a child's aptitude for math or where they're at emotionally or psychologically. It has to do a lot more with the parent, you're saying, than the child?
I do. This is probably not a popular belief out there, because I fundamentally believe we as a parent, we protect this environment, this learning environment. If we can't extend the learning environment long enough for our kids to transform from a cocoon to butterfly, we're better off not starting that, because the worst thing can happen is halfway through the transformation, kid putting out the effort but hasn't tasted the fruit of the labor. You can't hold the space long enough and it collapses down, and then you lose the forever chance of that kid willing to try it again.
All right, so say I'm a dedicated parent with a sixth grader who's struggling math coming into your office. You say, I need to do a lot of work. Exactly what is the work required that I have to do as a parent?
Yeah, there's a misconception. A lot of parents say, does that mean I have to do the math homework? I don't like math. I usually sympathize because I struggled with math myself. I say, with the parent job, the most important one is not to learn or do the math with the kid, because in doing so, one, the kid doesn't see the let's try again. Let's re-ask that.
Okay, so I'm hearing you saying that most of the work has to be done by the parent. So I'm a parent that's dedicated with a sixth grader who's struggling in math. Coming in, you say, I have to do the work. Exactly what is the work that I have to do?
I have a good analogy on that one. See if this one makes sense. Think of yourself, parent, as a gardener. You don't really grow the flower. The flower is going to grow on its own. But it is up to you to water it, make sure it has some sunshine, and if you can, have a greenhouse, right? That's something that parents can do that kids can't really do. Kid can grow the math, giving proper guidance, sitting down doing the homework with a proper person who love the math, teaching off it as well. But I believe parents going in there wanting to learn the math and then turn around and try to teach the kid, that's asking too much of parents, I believe.
Okay, so not teach. If I don't teach math to my kid, what do I do?
Well, there's a lot of things. I always say, for example, have a learning environment. Learning environment could be as simple as a huge desk that's sturdy, that kids have ownership of. Doesn't matter how messy, so long that kid can own that table and not have to clean up that table when the family eats dinner. For example, don't use the dining room table is what I'm getting at. Another thing the parent can do is help kids have a homework routine. When you come home, have a snack half hour, always start the homework before the dinner time. It doesn't matter what the particular routine is. So kids, I believe, needs routine, needs structure to thrive. And with their muscle that they have in the developmental stage, they don't have enough muscle to give themselves that consistency. That's when the parents can step in. And that's invaluable. No one else can duplicate that.
All right, so routine and learning environment, is that really that much work?
It is. I believe with our new emerging society, two household income streams, and the parents are at end of their rope, at least the ones come to my office, they're all stressed out. So what I think, parents should give ourselves, first of all, give yourself a pat on the back, and you're doing the best you know how. Make sure the energy and effort you do spend for your kids' academic is where you can consistently give. If one day you can sit down there for 2 hours, help the homework, and next day you can't spend 5 minutes because you're so stressed out with your own project, that inconsistency does more harm than if every day you can make sure homework gets started. Even if you can just do that 5 minutes, but every day it can start. That, I believe, in the long term, kid can benefit so much more than you sitting down every other week for 2 hours trying to get a math concept through.
Okay. So consistency, learning environment, and routine, that's the hard work from the parent. If, say, the teacher or the school is not, so the support there is not really as it should be, where does the math come from?
This is a hard one. Having been a math teacher, I feel that our education system is doing the best that they can do. Of course, it can do more, but see, a human entity as an education system is made up by humans. We're doing the best that we can, but it doesn't mean the kid is receiving what needed to receive. I believe it's counterintuitive in a way to waste parents' energy to go battle the school. So if your kid is not getting enough vitamin A, you go find, I don't know, was it carrots has vitamin A, right? You go do what your kids need to be done, get the job done, not to fight an entity that's already stressed out on its own. Just my opinion. It's not a popular one, I understand.
So math, you just go find outside resources if the school is not providing them, and not worth it to fight the school.
I don't believe it's worth to fight the school. School is doing the best that it knows how. It's a bureaucracy, it's an entity. It's made by humans who are stressed out. So why go there when your kid really just need one element?
All right. So say I have a kid, and at any point, is it worth it to say, forget about math? It's not about him. He has other things. I mean, that sounds horrible as a parent that say, don't worry about this very important subject, that there's something else. But is that ever the case?
The answer, okay, so let's ask that again.
All right, so that's one route where you decide to put in the work and build your child's math back up. Are there cases where you are a dedicated parent and you want to do the best and you want to put in the time? Are there cases when you say, my 8th grader, he doesn't really need math, and there's other things that I'm going to put my energy in?
End of the day, again, this is not a popular belief, but it's okay. I got to stick to my gun. End of the day, I believe parents knows the best for their kids. So for whatever reason you believe math is not paying out, it's hurting your child's self-esteem, and you're not willing to do the work required to go all the way back and find out where math was broken and carry through and see this math transformation through. By all means, say we as a family decide math is not the way we're going to build your confidence on. If it's a sports, then go for it. If it's dance, go for it. If it's leadership, go for it. End of the day, I believe we as a parent just want our kids to be happy. And to be happy, there's many ways to get there. Math by far is not the only way. But if you do want to take math on, it has to be a conscious choice from the parents, from the family. Resources are allocated, and you have to know you can carry it through. That's all I say.
Okay, so I'm hearing it's important that you make that choice. You just don't stay somewhere in the middle. Either go with math, do the hard work or fix it, or don't go with math and do the hard work and build their confidence from somewhere else.
Yes, that's what I fundamentally believe. As the parents, we want our kids, like Dalai Lama said, we want our kids to have roots, wings, and reason to come back. If you can supply all three, math or no math, at the end of the day, you've done your job.
So, as a math coach, you have parents come in, and after talking to you, they decide, okay, we're not going to go with math for our child. It's going to do more damage than good. What advice can you give them as far as to get through the rest of their required math classes?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So if you choose the non-math route, I would always say the one guiding principle is, how do I protect my child's confidence? Does that mean I have to move out a teacher who is more demanding than the other one? Does that mean I have to take a less demanding math courses? Doesn't matter what you have to do. End of the day, your only job, I believe, is to protect the kid's confidence.
Okay, so let's go back to the first question to wrap it up. You're the boyfriend, your girlfriend is struggling in calculus, and the boyfriend has listened to this podcast. Any final words or anything that the boyfriend can say to the girlfriend to improve her lot in life?
Ooh, that's a tough question. If I'm on the receiving end of the boyfriend's help, I would say, honey, I know what you're trying to do. Here's what I want out of this class. I want to pass with minimum grade of C so I can move on to my medical field classes, whatever is that's important to me at the moment. I want to acknowledge his effort, but I want to make it clear I have no intention going back all the way to Algebra 1 to fix the way I learn math.
Okay, thank you again. So to wrap it up, we discussed at what point do you stick with math, or at what point do you make other accommodations to get through math. And either path, especially for parents with younger kids, either path is difficult. So you have to decide what's best for your kid and what's the confidence. And we talked about, if you do decide to go with the math route, you need to have consistency, you have to have the right environment, and you have to have a good routine. And you need to be willing to go outside the system to get math help for your kids. And if you decide if you don't want to go the math route, then you got to find the right teachers or the right way to build up their confidence in other areas. And also for math, find teachers that are not as demanding and understand what you're trying to do and the reasons for. So that wraps it up. More information at our website at www.doortomath.com. And thank you very much. And until next time.
Wherever you are, happy parenting.